Should we let them know that we're,
Did
did you let us know we're ready?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yep,
Just
he
wanna
gave
make
us a
sure.
thumbs up.
Okay.
Missed that.
Missed that, yep.
Yes.
Okay. Birmingham.
Here.
Hintz.
Here.
Stam.
Here.
Lasky. Ponick. Belter.
Here.
Palmieri.
Here. All right, next we have approval of minutes from May 18th.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any discussion or corrections for the minutes? All right, then please call the roll.
Birmingham.
Aye.
Hintz.
Aye.
Stam.
Aye.
Belter.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye. And now we have a very special award to present to one of our members this afternoon for years of service. Mr. Belter, would you like to present?
Yep, I'll read the plaque so Steve knows what he's getting. This is a Citizen Service Award for the Redevelopment Authority for Steve Hintz from the city of Oshkosh in recognition of, it says 15 years, but I think it's been many more years than that for his service and
Like about
contribution to
85.
the. Well, you were the mayor and you're on city council and your many years of
yeah.
service, so thank you very much from the citizens of Oshkosh, Steve.
Well, thank you very much. This actually is a bit of a surprise, so.
Are you
you.
surprised?
Well, I am. Thank you. I'll hang it on my wall.
All right, well,
Volunteer
thank
10
you.
years, 5 years.
We appreciate your service.
Thank you.
And our next item then on the agenda is the public input for 43 East 7th Avenue proposals. And we will have those who would like to make comment step up to the podium. Do we have anyone registered for public comment?
We have nobody registered from the public, but I believe the developers will give some comment during their 3-minute presentation.
Okay. If there's, yes.
One thing I could add is that we're working with Oshkosh Media Services for a poll regarding the proposals, and that went out last week. So that'll be another bit of information we can provide to the RDA and the council should they seek that information.
And that's going out to the public?
Yes, it
Okay.
goes out to the
All right.
public who signs up for Polco, and I think it's also on a hot topic for our city website.
And on social media also.
Okay, and those, that would be available for how long, once it's up next week?
It's up right now, currently.
Oh, it is up?
Yes.
Okay, so it's closing next week then?
I don't know when it closes. That would be a great question for Mr. Radig.
Okay,
Kind of in charge of our Polco windows.
all right, so if the public has comment on any of the proposals, they're certainly welcome to email or participate in the poll call survey, or both. All right, very good, then. We will then move on to the proposal updates, 3 minutes each. And the first item is Tate Investment Partners. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you inviting us down to once again present our project or discuss our project. As far as an update to our project, there isn't much of an update at this point in time. Our proposal remains squarely intact as it was issued to you on April 16th, as revised by some of the clarifying questions that we sent by email in the follow-up to Kelly. We remain very excited about bringing a 4-ownership, lower density project to the waterfront in Oshkosh. I guess I will reiterate that our team has done a very like-kind project. We're working closely with a local real estate brokerage group that is very confident in the market's ability to support a project of the magnitude that we have presented. I think one of the questions in the follow-up questions is that would we be willing to partner with another developer or one of the other developers that has made a proposal on some of the balance of the site, given that our site does not encumber the entire property offered in the RFP, and that is a resounding yes. Certainly provided that we can come up with a reasonable allocation of the land and the infrastructure and address some of those challenges and how they might work to benefit both projects. We have a very open mind on that, and would welcome the opportunity to meld our project into, I guess, a larger, more comprehensive project and share some of the expertise with some of the other developers, share in some of the expertise that some of the other developers are bringing to the table. So, with that, I guess I'd be more than welcome to answer any questions that the RDA has regarding our proposal at this point in time.
We keep pronouncing your name wrong. It's Tadic?
It's Tadic.
Tadic.
Yes,
Tadic,
thank
okay.
you.
Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Other than Green Bay, where else have you had big success?
I've currently got a project under construction in downtown Appleton right now. We're
Okay.
going vertical on a 6-story project there, and we're on the verge of breaking ground in downtown Neenah as well.
Right?
So, and I know that Bob with Grabowski Builders has built kind of all around the northeast Wisconsin area, up to the Northwoods, to Door County, to, I'll let you probably.
Yeah, we generally are focusing again on more custom higher-end clients, and oftentimes that ends up bringing us to their second homes, things like that. So we've done projects within 1 to 2 hours. So this being a 15-minute window is worked really well. Could use local subsidiaries, use some of our subsidiaries.
You got fixed price contracts for all your construction costs?
Oh, of course. They're good until tomorrow.
Oh, sure,
Those
right.
prices.
Mr. Hens?
You list some sale price estimates in here. Clearly they're at the upper end there. Could you speak a little bit to, what kind of research you have, what you know about the information that you put in here?
I guess as it relates to research, from recent projects, I mean, those are numbers that we're projecting based upon the project that we kind of showed you on the walkthrough of the video a couple weeks ago. We don't have the opportunity to really go underground, so we don't have underground basements on these projects. The project that we're pitching here is a little bit smaller in square footage, and so we are, at this point in time, doing our best to translate square footage numbers from a prior project based on today's construction costs. And, granted, that's a huge moving target today.
I guess it is.
And I think that, part of the beauty of the project is that we will know very quickly into this project of whether those numbers are achievable. So, should we have an opportunity to take the next step here, one of the first things that we will do is take this plan and get it in front of a handful of people that we already know are interested in these units, and figure out, probably in 90 to 120 days of whether there's an opportunity to build this project. So.
Thank you.
I guess I would add that new construction doesn't get reported to the multiple listings. So people don't really know what new construction costs, and we oftentimes find it looks higher than people are used to seeing for existing. And we were very pleased to find that there's a high demand for waterfront, walkable living, and a lot of times it's from the people in the community that maybe are going their career now where they have a couple homes and they just want a nice place to land. They're going to sell their big home on a lake or something like that. Or it might just be that the units become smaller and a little more dense, and the price point goes down a little bit. But I think you start finding out once you start putting plans together and interviewing people. Our project, I know, ended up being like 30 to 40% more per unit than what I initially thought they'd be, strictly because that's what the customers wanted.
Yeah.
And the local realtors that we've been talking to, I have my broker's license, so the research I've done in the MLS, there's a glut. I mean, there's not really a lot of product in this category for sale in the Oshkosh area, and I think there's a demand that's not being met. So it's hard to quantify because there's really not a lot out there.
Right, but I mean, you feel comfortable that there is at least a niche at that upper end.
Yeah, if you look at a lot of places people winter, you couldn't start on waterfront for something anywhere close to this. So a lot of the people that might be our customers already have homes in places where this was
It's already-
quite a value.
Yeah.
And then it kind of builds the market once first couple people
Mhm.
buy in, then they're friendly, and other people say, well, as long as the area can support it.
Yeah,
lifestyle.
thank you.
And I noticed in the proposal, it indicates that the project company would need to sell at least, or pre-sell at least 50% of the units in a phase prior to commencing construction. So if you had, like, folks specifically inquire for this specifically, that you feel confident?
We haven't gotten that far though. I've spoken to one gentleman in town that's very interested. But Grant and Megan have signaled that there's a lot of people that are signaling they'd like something like this. And they've got, I don't know if it's a paper list or a mental list of people that they feel would be very interested. There's really not much to sell right now. That's the problem.
Sure. Well, thank you. Anyone else have other questions? All right, thank you kindly.
Thank you.
All right, and our next proposal is Red Earth LLC.
Good, thank you.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we've got just a few updates with our proposal. Actually, after our presentation from last time, we actually had an update in that during the presentation where we had our designer, architecture firm, Kevin, added 15,000 square feet of commercial space along Main Street. Hats off to his team. Just a phenomenal job that Kevin and his team does throughout the state. One of the top architect firms in Madison, if not the state. They had the foresight to put the buildings off of Main Street enough to allow for an additional 15,000 square feet of commercial space as well as on-street parking. So you'll see building in front of building 5 and 6 there. There's on-street parking, and that does not jeopardize the amount of units or the amount of parking, underground parking stalls of those two buildings. Now, if we were chosen in this development to be the developer, we would discuss other options as well for parking there, naturally with commercial parking spaces. So potentially angle parking there, we could offset it more from the street as well, double the potential parking, as well as on the actual site on the north side of building 6, there could be street parking there to add more parking as well for that 15,000 square foot of commercial space. The other big piece of it was there was a resounding impression that I guess our team got after the last meeting. The city wants to see diversity in housing options. It appears that there's already ifs that hundreds of units coming up in the area, so totally makes sense that there's a diverse offering of housing. Dealing with our owners internally here, 4 of us are here today. We all agreed that we would be willing to offer 12 condo units within phase 1, which is building 1 and 2 there along the river, and as well as 12 more condo units within phase 2, which is building 7 and building 3. Now, that's a minimum, but not limited to. Of course, if they fill up before we're done with construction, we're not opposed to offering more potentially in the building for all, if that makes sense for the market demand. And I really think, again, back to Kevin and his team on the design, I want you to, if you can, take some time, maybe during closed section, to really look through the renderings he created. One other area that, if we were chosen, the U-turn in the front of the property, east of the property, I should say, I really think if we turn that over to Kevin and his team, he'd come up with a really nice space there that would not jeopardize parking for public there. And let's see, now if, I guess if you go through the pamphlets that we handed out here, the second page is a rendering of that, commercial space on Main Street. And some of the other renderings throughout the packet are ones that were also within our proposal.
And
Now,
we
if
are
you get-
getting beyond the 3 minutes, so if you could wrap up.
Oh, yep, absolutely. Sorry, the last 3 pages, Kelly did an excellent job with her matrix. And what I did there was just update all of our information within the last 3 pages. One of the biggest differences that I see with our group is, we've done this before, we've moved contaminated soils. So we are not asking for a turnkey site. We are planning on working with the city. The water table right now is 2 feet below grade, existing grade. Look at those plans, the whole site needs to raise 10 feet. So majority of the soils that we pull out from underneath the foundations, we're planning on using throughout the site, underneath the parking and other areas throughout the site. Cap it, we're not expecting the city to cap it, mitigate everything, so that should drastically reduce your expense and get from A to B.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, any questions then, or is that?
Mr. Hintz?
Just a quick question. You proposed 4 stories. Most of the other ones were 3 stories. Obviously, that gives you more ground space in terms of what you're going to do, and I think that was an advantage. But I'm concerned about any of the advantages or disadvantages of the extra floor on the buildings. Does it make any difference?
As far as you mean the?
Well, in terms of your costs, in terms of, does that ever become a factor in the rental decisions of people?
Well, it certainly actually helps our costs. We have underground parking, so building up above it, with that underground parking, all the concrete there is now divided amongst more units. So that actually helps our cost per unit. And it also drives the tax improvement that we are going to create. The condos plus the commercial space is not in your assessor's valuation right now. We expect that the assessment will be north of 40 million by adding those amounts.
Thank you.
Do other members have questions?
I don't see any boat docks in this. Is that including boat docks as well?
We hadn't proposed any boat docks, but that's part of the negotiation with the developers agreement, because obviously that would be a huge asset,
Yeah.
but we would prefer to be private, but if it's on the city's coin, we're fine with that too.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, did you have something?
No.
Okay. All right, next we have Chet Wiesenberg, Tim Hess, Andy Demke, Kip Golden, Molly, and Brett Hildebrandt.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you for inviting us back, and we've got some very brief updates for you. We noted last time you guys were all asking about the concept of having 3 separate LLCs. We went back, had conversations with all 3 entities, and brought an attorney in the room, and certainly came to the conclusion it's easy enough for us to come up with a master LLC as a developer then that would then allocate things out. So we're perfectly willing to do that if that makes it easier for the city and the RDA to negotiate easier. Next element on here is, I think last time we had some questions about the financing. I think maybe it was Mr. Hintz. And so I looked to break it down a little further so you can understand between the 3 different elements per se. So I'm not going to dwell on that. That's really kind of a repeat of the same information, but just organized a little more clearly because we didn't make it too clear last time. So apologize for that.
Thank you.
Let me do this just so that. So the third thing that we really wanted to talk about here is which is on the backside of the colorful portion on the backside of your sheet. That this was something that we were intending for a fair period of time, but we didn't want to bring it forward until we knew we could do it. And so what we're proposing here, this is the exact same site plan, but we want to go in and put some concrete pads down. You know, the river walk we're anticipating is going to have the lighted bollards, so the electrical will already be ran there. And so we would propose using some of the TIF dollars to extend the electrical along the various paths that we have and create an outdoor sculpture gallery here, something that would entice people to walk this way. Maybe you would say that before the Pioneer gets done. And so you got some ideas of some precedent images there. We'd be looking between 12 to 16 pieces. Again, we would put the lighting in so that it can be both a daytime and nighttime experience, and also try to make this family friendly. That lower picture of an owl there reminds me of this gallery park that I went to in Arkansas, where they put these little creatures out, and you would get a bunch of geocachers to volunteer to move them weekly and have a phone app for kids to come and hunt them and try to find them per se. So we really want to get at something that's going to bring people down here and interact with it. And we say that we think we can make this happen in large part because we've talked to 4 different artists in the area, and they're all excited about this to form a committee and help figure out how would we implement this. We kind of envision maybe purchasing 5 pieces up front and then trying to get artists to contribute pieces for, maybe it's a rotating basis where they contribute it for 3 years and then they can take it and sell it. That way they're not having to give everything away per se. But then, approaching the community foundation and find other ways to try to make this overall vision happen. So this is our addition to what we have talked about last time.
All right, and we're at 3 minutes. Does anyone have questions? I just along the lines on the sculpture gallery, are you thinking which side of the Riverwalk? The public side or on the property
If
side?
you look, there you see the black dots, are potential locations for multiple sculptures.
So it would be on the Riverwalk, but also then on some of the private lands. So we'd have to collectively work it out, but
Okay.
I can imagine we could work it out.
Other questions?
So,
Go ahead, Tim.
so if we call the architecture stark, is there a way to make it more attractive? And does the planning commission have to approve all that also? I mean,
We'll go through the plan
Yes.
development process.
like as I mentioned, the Cape Cod motif or something.
I don't necessarily think Cape Cod's appropriate for the site.
Me neither, but.
I think we like what we've proposed. We've proposed it because we like it, and I think
Right.
we've also heard a lot of positive feedback from the community. But something Tim and I have talked about is that the market will determine that really. So we're going to put this out for sale and start marketing it, and I'm confident that it'll be well received. But if not, we'll certainly open any kind of changes. I think one thing that we've talked about as a team with the design is I think we did focus an awful lot on the architecture and not a lot on the landscaping.
Right.
So we do have a landscape architect that we have lined up to kind of come in and help us with that. So I think that it really helps to soften kind of the exterior space
Exactly.
considerably. So that was one thing. I mean, I guess we only had a few months to design 7
Right.
buildings.
Yeah, I was going to draw some bushes in on your picture there.
Yeah.
Right.
Freelance.
So basically, in terms of your financing, you got something, 5.5 million in partner equity there, and then the rest of that is what, going to be essentially bank financing for the
Right, the
primary.
primary financing is the bank financing.
Right.
And the mixed use guys, they tend to use PACE, so we mix a little of that in there.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, subject to the construction cost being what we think it is per
Right.
square foot right now, this seems to make sense.
yeah,
Having understanding that maybe that's gonna go up, then we may have to search a little more for more investors to make it happen and put more equity into it.
Right.
Maybe we will go after some PACE to fill
Right.
the gap,
But you're feeling good. I mean, that's not something you have to hold your breath on. It means a little more work.
We feel comfortable with the numbers.
You do.
If I may ask, how are things going? It was mentioned in here about the Smith School. How is that shaking out for you?
Yeah, so Smith School, the prices did come back higher than originally estimated. And we have worked with our development team. We are applying for low-income housing tax credits currently. Expect to receive those shortly and start construction in late August or early September.
Anyone else? Thank you. All right, next is Alexander and Bishop Real Estate Capital Markets LLC.
Thank you again for having me back. I'm Peter Youngbacher with Alexander and Bishop. Our presentation, Riverwalk on the Fox, has a few amendments to it. Are we short one?
Nope.
Okay. We listened intently to the conversation last time, and we tried to incorporate just a couple of tweaks in the design. On the front page, we've separated the commercial building on South Main Street in part because there's an interceptor that I wasn't aware of underneath 7th Street or 8th Street and needs to have access, so we've separated the building. We've added a floor to each of the two buildings, and consequently we added some additional apartments. And we've then kept the height of the interior 36-unit buildings at 3 stories. And we still have the townhouses, but we split them apart to create a little bit of a view line back into the interior of the site. So we have a 4-story, 3-story, 2-story elevation and profile heading to the river. Now, one of the things we haven't done here as detailed as perhaps Red Earth and Kevin Burrows is a very good architect, and I actually tried to get him for this job, but you beat me to it. So, and city staff here knows Kevin because we've talked to him about another project. So, but we will have a much more detailed site plan and elevation landscaping plan. I think the proof in the pudding with that is if you just look at our existing projects in this market, including River Place, a 35-year-old project, I think it has best-in-class landscaping. I invite you to take a walk around the site. It has 1,000 feet of river frontage. We've tried to take advantage of that exposure over the 35 years of ownership that we've had of that project. So we've added 22 units. We've created a little bit more density. We have a preponderance of underground parking. That's something we've done with our other projects. We've tried to keep parking fields out of public view and put them underground. And we've continued that philosophy here. With the design work that we're doing and the PACE participation, we will have LEED Gold certification for this building. One of the things that we pride ourselves in our business is sustainability. As we indicated last time, we were a finalist with Focus on Energy last year for utilization of their program in the state of Wisconsin. We were also the first company to use PACE financing for multifamily rehabilitation. We did that with a project here in Oshkosh that took a 60s vintage project and essentially gutted it and have rehabilitated it. We had our last tenant move in the interior of the buildings, I think this week, Monday, and now we're beginning to finalize the exterior landscaping plan. So we worked with the city on that, lots of hard choices to be made with a building that had a number of challenges. We have a track record, I think, in the community that we can point to of projects that have been owned for several generations, that have been well-maintained, well-managed. We have a goal with this project to make this an intergenerational asset, core portfolio asset for us and for the community. That will be locally owned, locally managed, and have income and rents recycled back into the community. And again, we have a strong commitment for sustainability. This will be a LEED certified building. It will have PACE participation. We are planning on using a number of amenities, including this brilliant system that we talked about before, to allow the Internet of Things to have full connectivity for residents and to reduce the energy carbon footprint of this building to as low an amount as possible. One note, we don't feel that this project has to be all our project. We had a brief conversation with the first presenters, and I think there is a strong and compelling argument to make to bifurcate perhaps developer participation and to take perhaps a test of the market with a developer who has a proven track record doing for sale housing. I don't do that. I do for rental housing. I would not be offended at all if the Planning Commission or the RDA came back and said, Peter, we'd like part of this for you, but we want to test the waters with another part. And I think there's a group that has demonstrated their ability. I've seen the project in the Green Bay market. It's beautiful. You would create an opportunity for housing here in the community that, frankly, we don't have and that we need to compete with our peer communities. So I think you should take perhaps a moment to pause on that and think about that as an alternative. So the townhouses we'd like to have, not necessary. I think the rest of the housing would be complementary to the neighborhood. We tend to go to the high end. Our rents would be in the 150 to 160-ish, 170 cent a square foot per month range, but they're amenity rich and they're designed to, capture residents that we're now losing to other communities.
We're at 4 minutes.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And last but not least, Twall Enterprises, LLC.
Big sheets for you today. There you go. A short PowerPoint for you guys. Try to keep under 3. Okay, yeah, so we do have one minor change to our site plan than what you guys saw last time, but I do think it has a major impact. So when we were just thinking it over after the meeting, we kind of went back to the key goals of the Sawdust District Master Plan and the RFP itself. And a lot of the verbiage in both of those plans, or the RFP and the Master Plan, talked about the connectivity, opening it up to the river, making a seamless design. I quoted it right up here: connect parks and open space to the waterfront, encouraging passive and active recreation for visitors and residents. So we, just thinking about our site plan, what we did, the one change we made was we just removed the fence. Originally we had a fence proposed kind of enclosed in the buildings here, so it, there's a little bit of a park along the river walk, but we had kept some private area for our residents as well. But in thinking about it and thinking about what the RDA has asked for, we removed the fence, and it in an attempt to make this that seamless design. We've got a slide on it here, blow it up a little bit for you guys. We've activated South Main Street, but we also want those people using these shops and this restaurant to work their way towards the river walk and the park and use this green space and make it a place for community members and residents to enjoy. I think what we've done is we've really captured our site plan, our design, our layout has captured the area, the river area, the river views, and included this green space in here, which, like I said, it activates, makes a seamless design. This is basically what I've been saying the whole time. We don't want to make it an exclusionary zone. I think a lot of times with fee simple housing or these for sale units or condos or whatever, it may seem, and when it's overdeveloped with a lot of buildings on site, it may seem as though it's just this whole 7-acre site is just for those residents and those people. We really want to bring the community into this area and let our residents enjoy the area alongside the community. So that was the idea behind the large green space and the park. all I have for you guys. Any questions?
Under 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Mr. Hintz?
Basically, you're renting there, but you've got different price points there. And this may be a question that seems a little far out, but what is your experience about the longevity of tenants given the different price points? Because I think one of the concerns is that we would actually, for rental or for condos, would like people who may stay more than 12 months or something like that. Any experience in terms of turnover?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example that's happened on the past 3 projects we opened up. So most of our projects, or all of our projects, are market rate. So they have higher rents or luxury units, or I think we use the term amenity rich, which I like that term. But in our last, I think, 3 projects we've opened, the first units to lease were the most expensive units. And they were leased out to people who older folks looking to downsize out of their houses. And these people, they're leasing 1 or 2 year leases, but what we've seen with a few other projects is that they re-sign and re-sign and re-sign. They enjoy the area because what we do, like I mentioned, is we may build a community. It's not just an apartment building where you go and sleep and eat. It's a real community, parks, amenities, everything nearby. So we found that we can retain these residents, and also we're starting to cater more towards an older community. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Other questions? Yes?
Are you proposing underground parking here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Underground parking under all
Right.
3 buildings.
Good. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just leave this up here? Thank you.
So I think we worked actually the Q&A into each of the proposals. Yep. But I just want to mention to RDA members, we do have a closed session, but we also have the American Rescue Plan Act project recommendations that needs to be in open session. Are we favorable to reordering the agenda to move the American Rescue Plan item up before closed session?
Sure.
Have a motion for reordering the agenda.
I move we reorder the agenda to move up the item 6.
7, please.
I'm
And
sorry,
7.
and the executive director's report, excuse me.
I'll second that.
Out of order.
All right. Please call the roll.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Ince,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Sonic,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Almiry.
Aye. Okay, then we are on to item 6, then American Rescue Plan Act project recommendations.
If I could fill in a little bit here?
Davis? Yes.
City Manager Roloff has put together some application forms that are just in the process of being distributed to all boards and commissions and the public. If I recall, he's even doing public input sessions today, next Monday, and maybe next Wednesday to solicit ideas from the public as to how the ARPA funds in Oshkosh could be spent. And specifically for boards and commissions and RDA, are there any projects that the RDA would want to submit to the city for consideration for ARPA funding? And I guess I wanted to make sure that was on your radar as to what you'd want to see that might be RDA related, but it doesn't even have to be RDA related. It could be just a private citizen with an idea justified writing down and sending that in. So, so that's in basics. That's what we're trying to accomplish: is get a bunch of people together to see what kind of projects they could submit.
How much money and when?
I'm told the city is getting over $20 million, and we've already received half that money.
And we have until 2024.
And what's
Is
the
that-
range of the project?
The range of the projects?
Yeah, I mean, do they have to be physical?
4 categories.
Yes, the ARPA legislation was, I didn't bring the legislation with me. They were infrastructure related for the
They were.
most part, but they could be spent on COVID-related items as well, is my understanding. So the infrastructure I'm real familiar with, and even on the COVID side, we've allocated several, we've allocated some public service money for homeless issues or preventing homelessness. So we've done that with some of our CDBG funds. But when it comes to the ARPA, I think the intent is largely capital type projects because it is just one-time money. And that's one thing I've heard regularly stressed, that since it's only one-time money, if it's going to be incurring regular costs
Right.
ongoing, that's probably not a good use of it.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So it's
Thank
my
you.
understanding that we have, one of the first main categories is direct assistance to households along with public health and economic development. There was a category for lost revenue. There was a third category of hazard pay for essential workers. And then the fourth one was the infrastructure limited to water, sewer, and broadband. Those were kind of the 4 buckets, but, you know, there's some latitude within some of those.
Mentioning the infrastructure at the end, I mean, the city has their own CIP, and potentially there might be another infrastructure funding bill that gets passed by the federal government later this year. That could factor into what pot of money you put what project in, so that you can maximize the impact of those funds on the city's future.
Thank you.
So how will people or organizations, how do you apply for this?
Filling out the forms that we included in the packet.
But will there be, like guidelines or criteria that come with this?
I don't know what comes with this. I've gotten the application forms. I don't know if there's a explanation form.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything on an explanation?
On the survey, there might be a little bit of verbiage regarding that, but the actual application form, I think, is divided up. There's one for citizen, like individual recommendations, and one for like nonprofits.
Yep.
And then in those info sessions, it's my understanding there will be a little more verbiage, explanation in those as well.
And these are all on the city's website currently.
And in the city's newsletter.
Yep.
Trying to get it out to as many folks as possible.
And I do see it's probably already dated, because I've heard that Friday, July 2nd is not a hard, fast deadline for getting these in, because some groups actually don't meet by July 2nd.
And who's the deciding body for the $100 million worth of applications?
I think the city manager intends to gather all these and use staff to, say, vet these, and then submit them to council for final.
And you'll have to
disposition.
decide on partial funding or just full funding for a few projects.
That is a great question. That's
Mhm.
what we have to do on an annual basis with our CDBG
Oh, right.
public services funding, where we work with, that's a different kind of case, but it's similar in that we never have enough money for all the requests.
So as far as this group goes, the July 2nd is kind of an ish date for those wish lists, I suppose.
The only point I'd make is between the presentations we saw and this is that I think every one of the projects assumes the city's going to be putting 9th Avenue in, and that's in our city CIP, but it's not funded. And wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that that's something that the city and the RDA will have to deal with anybody who's selected. The 9th Avenue does have to be installed. Unless there's anybody in the crowd who says they don't need 9th Avenue, but I don't think that's the case.
And we're not real clear, though, whether or not you can put streets into the ARPA.
I've been told they're looking at that. I get the impression they think they can, but I'm not making that call.
I think that's, finance and city manager to
Determine.
make some recommendations there.
So the number one thing, make sure you're aware of it, and if there's anything that you'd like help with in figuring out or putting together, staff would be happy to help you with that. And then we could make sure that's submitted by July 2nd or soon after. And it doesn't have to be RDA related, it could be related to anything else you see in the city as a need.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, next is the executive director's report, and our next regular meeting, July 21st.
And that one's kind of up in the air because there's a conflict with the meeting rooms, I'm told, so they're trying to work that out. The 21st, we're probably going to be sending out a doodle poll, potentially to pick a new date and time for that, unfortunately. Can you add to that, Ms. Nyforth?
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, we can be in here on the 21st, but another board and commission would have to find a different space. So we just reached out with a few other dates. I think Anna should be contacting you to see if there was a quorum to move it to one of the other dates to accommodate the other group. If not, though, we'll be here on the 21st. So Anna will let you know that as soon as possible.
Okay.
One last item. I did submit my letter of retirement to the city, so my last date will be July 9th, and it's been an honor working with all you guys on so many neat projects, removing blight and getting more projects built in the city, so thank you very much.
Actually,
Oh,
Ellen, I'd like to reject your letter retiring.
Was that a motion?
Yeah, it is. It's mandatory.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think we've all learned a lot from Alan and benefited from
Well, and
leadership.
the great thing is Ms. Nyforth will be serving as interim community development director through the recruitment process that Mr. Roloff's underway with. So,
Great. Wow.
Big things. Is there anything else from the executive director's
No,
report?
that's enough. That's my last
You
executive director.
don't care now, right?
I'll care, unfortunately.
We didn't have this on the agenda for any future agenda items. Don't we normally have that in our agenda for future agenda items?
Yes, on our regular meetings we do.
All right, because this is a special one.
one.
Okay.
You'll see that in the July meeting.
I guess a question related to the executive director's report, as that being your last report, would you advise this group to bring back to some of our discussions the idea of a plan for some of our RDA-owned properties?
Oh, yes. Yep, we've been talking about that. In fact, Ms. Nyforth was meeting with staff last week to review all those RDA properties and what our plans are for all those properties. So, yes, we're actively working on that.
Okay, well, thank you. I guess at this point, we'll take a motion to adjourn
Into closed session.
into closed session.
Yep.
We need to adjourn first, don't we? Well, I'll make a motion to go into closed session to consider bargaining options, strategy, parameters, and terms related to the negotiation of an agreement for the redevelopment of 43 East 7th Avenue pursuant to Section 19.85, Para 1, Para E of the Wisconsin State Statutes, where competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session. So I'll make that motion.
Second it.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Ponick,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned from our open session. If you'll excuse us,